Hey everyone, welcome to Shark! See, I can do it too. Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird, here to finally review a movie that we did a trailer reaction on months ago that I was really excited about. I don't know if anyone else was as excited as me. I think Fuego thought it looked funny as well, but he was unavailable, so I sat down and finally watched, for our contribution to Shark Week, I watched Bad CGI Sharks. Now, this is one that you may or may not have thought looked good when you saw the trailer, if you saw the trailer, but this is definitely an entry into the, independent, low-budget shark movie genre. There's a ton of them around as of right now. Friends of the channel, Bloodbath & Beyond, are currently in the midst of their Shark Week reviews, and they're running into bummer after bummer, except for like one maybe. But this is one that I hope they got around to reviewing for Shark Week because I am very interested to see their take on it. Here's mine. Doing this review like we normally do them, I'll go through the overall thoughts, then I'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, all of that good stuff in turn, the sound too. So this movie, I will say I had fun with. I enjoyed this movie. I don't get down with a lot of these, straight to VOD, straight to DVD even, shark movies, straight to sci-fi shark movies. I absolutely kind of loathe at this point. There's some really bad ones out there. But what I like are movies that try and innovate. These independent, low-budget shark movies have been being made for the last 2 decades, at least. Going back to Blockbuster, there was a ton of these movies being made on a regular basis. So it's hard to stand out from that pack, especially nowadays when there's so many readily available. But Bad CGI Sharks definitely does just that. Not only because it's about sharks out of water, but because it's actually a unique concept. It's more than just what happens if people suddenly are starting to get attacked by sharks out of water. No, it's literally, it actually, there's way more to it than that. And that's at the core what I was really impressed with this movie, quite honestly. Now, I will say that the story is something that might lose some people. And I think that the acting might be something that loses some people. If you can buy into the 2 main characters, then you're going to have a great time. If you can buy in to what is largely a silly story, then you're going to have a great time. And if you're drinking, it's going to be an even better time, quite frankly. This is absolutely one of those movies. I'll tell you right now, if all you want to know if this is a good movie to sit down and drink and watch with your friends, 100% it joins that pantheon. 100%. I'm actually bummed that no one was here drinking, watching it with me, because I was actually laughing out loud. I think I laughed out loud. You know what, I can't quantify the number, but I laughed out loud way more than I thought I would. And it was at stuff that maybe some of you guys won't laugh out loud at, but just some funny thing from a filmmaker's perspective, like just one little gag. I'm assuming it was an intentional gag, but most of the time the shark swims, right by the camera. But one time they let the shark swim through the camera and you see the inside of the build and it's just a hollow polygon laden shark on the inside. Oh, it made me laugh so hard that it swam through the camera and I just went ha! So it had a lot of those kinds of moments in it. And I will say that the first time we see the shark at night, it actually looked genuinely unnerving. I was like, Jesus, if I saw that right outside my laundry room, I'd be scared crapless. But obviously, as the movie went on, it happened more and more during the day, and it's not as unnerving, but it's not about that at that point. That first one was meant to scare, and it actually did a good job. So I thought that was entertaining. But I'm getting sidetracked already. The story is about this man named Matt who works actually at a D movie studio making straight to VOD shark movies. They have a really funny poster of one on the wall. I can't remember what exactly it said, but I was constantly looking back at it because it was a funny joke. But he works with this girl named Amy, who was in the trailer, who had one of the funniest bits in the whole trailer. She's actually really entertaining. She's great in this movie. But it's about Matt. So he is struggling with life. He's, you know, not necessarily happy with where he is and what he's doing. And very rapidly, he finds his brother on his doorstep, Jason, who has been kicked out of the family house and who is just the most positive person, like the modern day hippie, if there was one. He's got a big, you know, hair knot thing that like looks like a shark's fin, essentially. And he's constant, like, he shows up in LA and is like hanging with a bum, not realizing that he's a bum. So he's kind of stupid, but he's stupid with a heart of gold, that kind of thing. I'm trying to figure a character that you could liken him to, but he's just dumb, but he's kind of fun, silly, dumb. And so he shows up on Matt's doorstep, and he basically says, "Hey, man, you," and actually, the movie starts where Matt ends up getting fired. This is really early on. So Jason is like, "Hey, you have time right now, and I always wanted to do this." He pulls out this little notebook, and it's a movie called Sharks Out of Water that they started writing as kids, but they never got to finish. And he's like, "We should totally finish this. You have time now. We should." This is where the movie gets different, okay? The movie actually starts with a character by the name of Bernardo introducing himself and introducing the movie as kind of a all-seeing sort of narrator. So at that point, he actually comes into the movie in a pretty funny way. He actually drops in and he's like, "Hey, I'm about to enter the movie. I'll wave to let you know that it's me." Like, there's a lot of really funny, stupid things that would never play in a regular movie, but for some reason in this one, it actually works. Like, it all works cohesively. All the stupid, offbeat humor, it comes together in such a weird, yet gelling way. It was really interesting to me, but anyway, continuing on. So Bernardo shows up and he's like, "You guys, you know," he's essentially kind of a fairy godfather. He shows up and he's talking directly to the audience, and they don't know who he's talking to, but basically the long and short of it is the equivalent. He snaps his fingers, everything cuts to black, and then they wake up, and all of a sudden their annoying neighbor runs over and is screaming shark, saying that he was attacked by a shark floating in the air. And it turns out that aspects of their script are now coming to life, and they have to figure out why and how to stop them. And Jason is basically taking it all as a sign that they need to actually make this movie. And then Bernardo actually gets involved directly with the two brothers and kind of explains what's going on, and it just gets wildly out of wing, to use a Lion King line there, appropriately timed. But it's crazy, and it's fun. It's legitimately fun. I could not, as many of these straight to DVD shark movies as I've seen, I could not predict where this one was going. And even the CGI shark, there are more later, but the CGI shark has some really wild stuff happen, stuff that they don't show at all in the trailer. And it leads to a final confrontation where you're just like, what is going on? But I'm so digging it. The story was way more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. And that's not to speak bad about what I thought. It's just, bad CGI sharks. You don't expect much out of a story. But they threw enough elements, and some people might call it, too much of too many different things trying to be thrown together. But I thought it gelled. Now, jumping into the acting, again, I mentioned earlier, some people are going to hate Jason. I'm just being honest. Some people are going to really not like that character, the same way that people don't like the Abraham character in House Shark. He could be grating on some people, but if you open your heart to Jason, you're going to have a fun time with this movie. Just realize that he's just the utter optimist, and just because he doesn't know any better. But it makes for a really fun, wholesome character. So I bought into Jason. I was iffy for a bit, but then I just bought in. And then I was more bought in on Matt than to start, but I ended up more bought in on Jason than Matt by the end, because Matt is like having to try and play the straight man, and he's trying to be really scared of this CGI shark, and it doesn't always come off that well. Like, you can tell he's adding an extra stutter to seem scared and stuff like that. Not always the best, but he's still really entertaining to play off of Jason. And he's fun to see play with Amy. And even Jason is fun to see. See, Jason is fun to see play off of basically everyone, because he's this wacky character and everyone else is us. They know he's this wacky character, and so all their reactions are our reactions. So it actually played pretty well. And then, Amy herself, I thought she was really funny. She has the most funny point in the trailer. I was dying at that point when she has to call and leave a message for Matt. And like the stuff she said, I had forgotten what she said in the trailer because I didn't realize that part was happening. The upgrade to the shark, so to speak. I mean, this movie is 50% Jason X. I will say that much. It's 50%, not 50%, maybe 30% Jason X. There's something happens that is very Jason X, and it takes this movie to a whole nother level of shark silliness. And I dug it. I was on board. I'm gonna have to get this movie just to have as like the shining example of what can be done with low budget shark movies if you put a little bit of time into. Again, the dialogue wasn't Oscar worthy, especially the neighbor. His dialogue was really rough, but the story itself was, fun. It wasn't, again, it's not Shakespeare, but it's not meant to be Shakespeare. It's a low budget independent shark movie that it's wearing its silliness on its sleeve. It's a very hyper aware movie. The people, like, there's a shark that looks pretty good, and then there's sharks that just look straight up like cartoons, but there is a script, there is a script reason as to why that is the case. Sorry about that, guys. So I liked that. I excused it more because they wrote it in, and all of it, it's just weird. It's weird. I wasn't expecting it all to kind of be thought of the way that it was, but really to do a movie called Bad CGI Sharks, where it's sharks floating in the air, you have to acknowledge all of those weird things, and they acknowledge all of those weird things, and thus you're on board the whole time. It's strange. It shouldn't have worked. What they tried really shouldn't have worked, but man, they got it to work. I had fun with this movie, guys. I might have had a drink or two last night. I didn't finish. I actually watched half last night and half today, and I was drunk last night and maybe I went a little bit too heavy because I had to finish it today. I didn't remember the back half of it, but it was funny drunk and it was funny not drunk. So I gotta say, it hit me both ways. I enjoyed this movie. That's your blurb, guys. It was funny drunk and it was funny not drunk. Anyway, guys, the other thing I wanted to touch on is the sound and the music. The music mix was a little bit high for me. I feel like it was a little loud at times, but it's not like I was missing really key moments of dialogue when the music was high, so it didn't ultimately bother me. I just noticed that I had to turn the volume down a little bit because the music was a little bit higher than I had kept the volume for the dialogue and stuff. So that was one minor issue. And then there was some funny sounds because the sharks growl, and if you know anything in the ocean, it can't growl because they don't have vocal cords. Whales have ways to make sounds, and so do dolphins, but sharks don't. So they added a bit of a growl and stuff, and then they added chomp, chomp, chomp. And that's the other thing I have to say. Because it's CGI Sharks, don't expect to see a lot of the attacks. You'll see attacks, but you won't see the attacks, if you get my drift. But that, believe it or not, I know you go into these cheesy shark movies to see the attacks, but do you really? Because the attacks always look like crap. So they just avoided that, and they made the attacks work around that. And there was even a pretty funny moment that made way less sense in this movie than it did in, a movie just recently did this. I think it might have even been Halloween 2018 that did this. But nonetheless, they do something that is so over the top and silly, but then it's followed up by a sound effect of a crunch, crunch, crunch that sold, the silliness of it. I don't know. The sound design was fun. The music was a little overwhelming, but it was good music. So all in all, guys, for a low budget shark package, you really can't do much better than CGI Sharks when you compare it to the recent efforts and outings out there. Especially, again, most of my knowledge of the recent movies is coming from the reviews from Bloodbath & Beyond, because I just don't have time. Anytime I rented those movies, I was always fast forwarding to the Sharks anyway. I will say that it is a boon for this movie that I didn't fast forward one time just going to the Sharks. I actually wanted to see how the story played out and see how the comedy played out. It kept my interest that whole way. So that's a positive tick in my book for a movie like this. So, guys, it's worth your time. And Bad CGI Sharks is actually going to be available starting this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, for Shark Week. So I'll put a link in the description box down below. This review is going to go up on Friday, so you might still have a day of pre-orders or something, but you'll be able to get it after that. And then I'm not sure if it's going to be available on VOD. If so, I'll drop a link to that down below as well. But this movie is worth your time. If you have an hour and a half and a six-pack and a friend, you're going to have an awesome night. That's what I'm going to say. Okay? This is a fun movie. It doesn't require alcohol, but man, does it doesn't hurt either. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you're interested at all in Bad CGI Sharks, or if you have... No, you wouldn't have watched it by the time we did this. So, you know, but people will watch this later. So if you did get around to seeing Bad CGI Sharks, let me know in the comments down below if you thought it was fun or just stupid. Some people might think that. I'm not trying to be rude. Some people might think that. But a lot of you are going to think it's just flat fun. So, yeah, let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, click that like button and subscribe. Guys, we have some really cool stuff coming up. We have a huge announcement coming in October. Maybe even sooner for our patrons. For those of you that want to click that link down below as well, you can support the channel and you'll get that news a little bit early. But that's going to do it. Thanks very much for watching, and thank you to the people behind Bad CGI Sharks for providing a screener for me to review this. I'm not talking it up because of the screener. If I didn't like it, I just wouldn't review it, but I did like it, so I want to share the love, you guys. Check out Bad CGI Sharks. Thanks again, and remember, stay scared.